Animations are increasingly becoming more and more popular on websites, allowing us to get a bit more creative with how we build and design our sites. Animations can be used to tell a story or convey the personality of a brand, making websites more memorable and engaging. But how do we go about learning how to animate web pages? With React.js, we have a few libraries that help us to animate, such as GSAP, React Spring, and FrameEmotion. Whilst all of them are excellent choices, in this video we'll be focusing on FrameEmotion and looking at a few ways you could animate using it, such as scrolling, SVG animation, and dragging. But before we continue, this video is not sponsored by anyone, but if you want further insight into the world of software and product development, you can sign up to our newsletter at rhythmic.studio/articles. Now for this project, I will also be making use of Tailwind CSS, just to speed up the design, and I'll also be setting my React project using Vite. For the purpose of this tutorial, I will skip the setup as it's simple to do. However, I will add links for those who want to know. Okay, so once you've got your React.js project up and running, and you've also installed Tailwind if you're going to use it, then the first thing that we're going to do is just clear out the app.jsx file and just return something empty, like a div with a section inside it. And if you haven't already, inside of the index.css file, just make sure you've got Tailwind base, components, and utilities written in. Then for the final touch, I'm just going to add a Slate 950 background to the entire website, just so it has like a nice background. So now we can go ahead and install FrameEmotion into our application. Now on the website, you'll find the command. So just go ahead and copy that, and then back inside your terminal, paste it in and hit enter. Okay, so now time for development. So the first thing that we're going to do is within the top level div, we're going to add the following classes. We're going to add flex, flex call, add a gap of 10, and make sure you also include overflow x hidden. And that's because some of the animations that we'll add later on may break the horizontal scroll. So for the first half of this tutorial, we'll be looking at 6 different animations. And for this, we're going to be creating a 2x3 grid, where each square within that grid will represent some different type of animation. So within the section tag, let's go ahead and add the following classes. Grid, grid calls 3, padding of 10, and a gap of 10. Inside of the section tags, let's add a div element and give it the following class names. A background slate 800, aspect square, so it keeps the square kind of look, rounded LG for the border radius, justify center, flex and item center, just so the elements that we add inside of the div are bang in the middle, and give it a gap of 10. Once you've done that, copy the div and paste it 5 more times. This is so that we fill out the grid that we created just before. So the first animation we'll look at will be applied to the grid we just created. Let's create an animation so that when we first load the page, each block on the grid will appear one at a time. The first thing that we need to do is import motion from framer-motion. Then with motion, add that to the beginning of both the 2 section tags. This is just to tell our application that the section element is going to be animated. Now we can add the variance prop to motion.section. Inside of that, we can create an object, and with the first property being hidden. Now you don't have to call it hidden, you can call it whatever you want, but in this case, hidden seems fine. With hidden, we can associate that with another object. Inside that object, give it a property of opacity and set that to 0. This is just to tell the application that just before the animation will run, the opacity of the grid will be set to 0. Then we'll create another object on the same level as hidden and call that show. Again, you can name it however you like. Inside of show, we'll add another object with opacity set to 1 and then another object called transition. Within the transition object, create a property called stagger children and set that to 0.25. This will allow for each box in the grid to show up one after the other. Once that's done, add the prop initial to our motion section component and set that to hidden or whatever name you gave the first property within variance. Then just underneath that, add the prop animate and set that to show. You can see that for both initial and animate, we are referring back to the variance that we defined earlier. Hit save and head back to the browser and click refresh. What you should see is the entire grid fading into view. But you might be wondering, how come we don't see each of the squares fading in one after the other, given that we already added stagger children? Well, we need to adjust the opacity for initial and animate for each of the boxes. So let's go ahead and do that now. For the divs inside our grid, add motion to the beginning of them. You can then add the variance prop and pass in the objects hidden with an opacity of 0 and show with an opacity of 1. Do the same for the 2 divs underneath. Remember to also remove 2 of the other normal divs, just so our grid doesn't break. You might be wondering why our divs don't need the initial and animate props. That's because the parent component, which is the section one, already has that. So the divs just inherit that behavior. Now you can go back to the browser and hit refresh, and what you should see are at least the first 3 top level boxes fading into view. But before we make the same changes to the other divs, we should do some cleaning up. Given that our variants are objects, we can go ahead and store them in variables so that we're not repeating the same variants over and over again. The first variable will store the variants that we use for our motion section. I'm just going to go ahead and call this grid container variants. So just copy what you have inside of the motion section variant and paste that in. Then make sure you just replace the old variants with that new variable that we just created. Then we'll do the same for all the elements inside our grid. Go ahead and create a new variable called grid square variants and paste in the same variants that we used for our div elements. Then we just need to make sure that our divs are using grid square variants. Once you've made those changes, replace the normal div elements that we still have with the new motion.divs that we've just written. Then head back to the browser, hit refresh, and you should see each of the squares showing up one at a time. Now we can go ahead and start to add the animations within our squares. For the first square, we'll do something similar to what we just did. We'll create 2 shapes that fade in, but also move along the y-axis. So let's go ahead and create 2 motion divs, one representing a rounded square and the other a circle. This time, instead of using variants, we will write directly into the initial and animate props, just to show you that you can do this too. For the square, we will pass the values opacity 0 and y100, then for animate, opacity 1 and y0. We also need the transition prop. This describes the way the animation will play out. For example, we can set the length of the animation to 1 second, the easing style to something like ease out, and the delay to 0.2 seconds, so that it doesn't start straight away. I also encourage you to mess around with some of these values, such as trying different ways we can ease the animation. But now, once you hit save and head back to the browser and click refresh, you should see the square moving up whilst also fading into view. Let's head back and do the same thing to our circle div, but this time let's have it so that it's fading down. All we have to do in this case is change the y value to be something like -100. We can also change the delay to be something like 0.4 so that it starts a bit after our rounded square. Now you can head back to the browser and hit refresh again. What you should see is the square fading in upwards and the circle fading in downwards. But you should also notice a slight delay between the square and the circle. Okay, that's enough with dealing with opacity. What about transforming an element by scaling, rotating, and playing with the border radius? First, we need to create a div that we can animate on, and that will represent a rose red square. We don't have to worry about the initial prop, as the animation will start as it means to go on. Within the animate prop, let's set the scale to 1, 2, 2, 1. This creates a scaling animation. The element will grow to double its size and then shrink back to its original size. Given that there are 4 elements, it will split the duration into 4 keyframes. So the scale will remain at 1 for the first keyframe and then 2 for the second keyframe, and so on. Next, we will set the rotation to 0, 90, 90, 0. This specifies a rotation animation where the element will rotate 90 degrees and then rotate back again within 4 keyframes. So the first keyframe relating to 0, the second keyframe relating to 90. And then finally, for the border radius, we will set it to 10%, 10%, 50%, and 10%. This changes the border radius during the animation, making the corners more rounded at one point before returning to the initial style. Then for the transition prop, we will set the duration to 5 seconds. We'll set the ease to ease in out so that it starts and ends slowly, with the middle part being faster. And we will have a continuous repeat with a 1 second delay between each one. Now, if we head back to the browser and hit refresh, what we should see is a red square that slowly transforms to a circle and then back again. This will keep on happening as we've set the repeat to infinity. But what if we didn't want to use infinity and we just want to repeat it a few times? Well, we can go back to the code and set repeat to a value, say 2. Now, if we head back and again hit refresh, we should see the square and circle transform twice after it's run its first time. So in total, it will show 3 times. For the next animation, let's look at how we can animate whilst hovering and clicking. Let's go ahead and create a button that we can animate on using motion. Then let's set the background to emerald, a generous width with some padding on the y-axis, and a rounded border radius. The text to something of a readable size, color, weight, and tracking. Our first animation will occur when we click on the button. For this, we can use a while tap prop, and within that, set the scale prop to be 0.9 so that it shrinks a bit when we click on it. For the hover effect, we can use a while hover so that when our cursor is on the button, it scales to 1.1 and the background and text color changes. So this all looks pretty smooth. However, we can mess around with the springiness of our animation. And to do that, we can use a transition prop. Within that, we can specify the bounce dampening to a value, say 10, and stiffness to about 600, which will affect the physics of the animation. Try play around with these values and see what you get. What about moving objects by dragging and dropping them? Well, we can do that too. In our next grid section, let's create an orange square with a width and height set to 1/3 of the container and a rather rounded border radius. As it will be draggable, we can set the cursor to grab. Now, all we need to do is add the prop drag to our motion component. If we head back to the browser, we can now grab and throw it across the screen. What can be a problem is that it has no boundaries, so it can go flying off the screen if you're not too careful. To combat this problem, we can add drag constraints. In this case, I want it to remain within a small area, so you can set top to -125, right to 125, bottom to 125, and left to 125. Now, when I drag it and let go, it remains within those boundaries. We can go a step further, and like we did with the button, we can add some physics to our drag. However, this time we have to add the prop drag transition, and within that, pass in an object with the property bounce stiffness, which gives it a bit of friction. But if we want to have a more elastic feel when letting go, we can add bounce dampening, which I think has a much cooler effect. It's not unusual to see a scroll progression indicator on many websites. For example, on blog articles to give you an idea as to how far you've read. With Frame of Motion, this is quite simple to implement. So for our fifth grid box, let's go ahead and create a div element. Here I've set it to motion. However, it should also work without, as we won't be animating this one. Give it a width of 40, aspect square, background 50/20 for some opacity, and a rounded border radius. Then within that, create a motion div with width set to gray 400, rounded border radius, height to be full, and origin bottom, so it grows from the bottom of its container. Now, if we try to play around with the scale Y CSS value with different percentages, we will see how it grows as the value approaches 100%. With this knowledge, we can go ahead and import useScroll from Frame of Motion. This is a hook that allows us to make use of scrolling information for our animations. We then extract scroll Y progress and assign it to completion progress from this hook. We can then use this as a value we give to scale Y. And there we go. You scroll up and down your site, you will see the progress change. Even as the height of the viewport changes, they will still be reflected in the scroll. SVGs are great, but animated SVGs can take your sites to the next level. For the last animation on our grid, let's look at how we can make lightning strike. First, we need to create an animatable SVG using motion.svg and then provide the values for XMLNS and viewbox. For styling, we'll give it a width of 1/2, the stroke will be amber 500 and the stroke width set to 0.5. Now within the SVG, we need a path. You can of course copy and paste the value I have within CodePen, or you can try with a different SVG. This path just creates a lightning bolt shape. In order to animate, let's go ahead and define the variance within the variable SVG icon variance. For the hidden values, we'll set the opacity to 0, path length to 0, and fill to yellow, but with an opacity of 0. Then for visible, again you can name this however you want. I'm going to set the opacity to 1, the path length to 1, and fill to the same yellow but opaque. Now back down in our motion path component, we can set the variance prop to SVG icon variance, and then initial to hidden and animate to visible. Then within transition, we can set the filling of the SVG to a duration of 2, an ease of ease in, a delay of 2 seconds, and have that repeat infinitely. Now if we go back, we can see the fill of the SVG go from no opacity to full opacity and back. However, the transition from opacity 1 to 0 is very sudden, so we can set the repeat type to reverse and the repeat delay to 1 second, which makes it a lot smoother. As for animating the path length, we can define default and give it a duration of 2 seconds, an ease of ease in out, a delay of 1 second, have it repeat infinitely, a repeat type of reverse, and repeat delay of 1 second. This way we've separated the animation of the path and the fill. Now back in the browser, you will see the outline of the bolt being drawn first and then the fill. So that wraps up our grid. But what about some other common animations, especially ones where the website comes to life as we scroll through them? For example, when elements appear once they are in view, or how their positions change depending depending on scroll values. Underneath our motion section, we're going to add a new section with the classes flex, flex column with a gap of 10 and bottom margin of 10. Within that, a h1 tag with the text just keep scrolling, along with some styling. Then underneath that, a couple of paragraph tags with some random sentences and styles to ensure some nice readability. For the title, we want that to appear once it is in view. To do that, we first need to define a reference point, and then use the hook useInView and pass the reference point into it, along with an object with once set to true. This will ensure that the useInView hook runs only once when the container ref is in the viewport. We can then use the useAnimation hook and assign it to main controls, which will allow us to manually trigger animations. But just a quick side note, in the future this hook may be deprecated, so you may need to use the useAnimate hook instead. Then inside of a useEffect hook that listens for is in view, we can state that if the container ref is in view, then trigger the variant visible. Now back down in our section, we can set the h1 tag to be a motion component and set the section to have our reference point. This means that once the section is in the viewport, our animation will be triggered. Inside of motion h1, set the animate prop to be main controls and initial to be hidden. Then the variant hidden to have opacity 0 and y75, and variant visible to have opacity 1 and y0. For the transition prop, just set the delay to be 0.3 so that it doesn't run straight away. Back in the browser, after hitting refresh, as you scroll down and the section comes into the view, you should see the title animation. As for the paragraphs underneath, we can do something similar. However, this time, as we scroll, we want the paragraphs to move along the x-axis. To achieve that, we first need to add the motion extension, then import useTransform from the motion library. This hook transforms the output of one or more motion values, such as mapping some values to another. We can then use the useScroll hook, but this time relate it to the reference point we created earlier, and then set the offset to be start end and end end. Start end means that we will start tracking the scroll when the beginning of the target element reaches the end of the viewport, and end end means that we will stop tracking the scroll when the end of the target element reaches the end of the viewport. For the first paragraph, we can call the useTransform hook and place in the scroll Y progress variable that we just created. The array is 0, 1 and -100%, 0%. This will create a mapping between the two arrays. We can do the same for paragraph 2, but this time without the -100%. Once that's done, we can change the translate X styles on each of the motion paragraph tags. Now if we head back to the browser and scroll, you'll see the paragraphs move into the center. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. FrameInMotion can be a confusing library to learn, however there's a lot of potential when it comes to making websites that stand out. I would highly recommend checking out the docs and experimenting with different animations. But otherwise, stay healthy, stay safe, and I hope to see you in the next video.